Hey, let me take off my double glasses. Yes, yes, I am live. Great, great, great. I am crossing my fingers that everything goes well, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Um, I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody's doing well. I am here. It is Sunday. I'm thinking this is the month of June. So happy Father's Day, guys. This is June. Hey, good evening. Good evening. How are you, Carolyn? Carolyn. Listen, my eyes saw. I might have to throw these daggone glasses back on in a minute. Thank you for the thumbs up coming in. You know what? Let me take these off. Child, it has been so hot. Yeah, I'll put these on. It has been so hot here. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I just trying to get over this heat, child. Trying to get over this heat. And I had a client earlier today. But you know what? And so I got done with her. And usually I like to do one thing a day, but I was like, I'm going to get on here because I got a great question. I got such a great question, and it really excited me. It's one of these type of things that I was all like, it really kind of got me in my juices. It's been hot in California too. I can only imagine. Oh, hi, Sister Knots. Hello. Thanks for the flowers, girl. Thank you. Anyways, yeah, guys, if you come in, just do me a favor and thumbs up, y'all. If you come into the live, okay? Y'all do me that little favor. What is going on with this little headband? Why does it feel like okay, I feel a little bit crazy, but that's okay. Y'all work with me. Anyways, y'all, I am going to, just like in the title, in this question, I want to do a shout out to at expected. Expect, she spells it XPECT_it. So she left a question for me. And I thought that was a really, really great question. And it is so funny because a lot of people don't even ask that question, but it is so important and it is very, very relevant. Like it is so relevant. And that is what is the impact of, wait a minute, how does she do it? She asked me my views on unlicensed hairstylists and what is the impact on the hair industry. Wow, what a great question. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to really, really get into that because this is a real thing and this allowed me to actually really get into this, really kind of dig deep into this because me myself at a time was unlicensed before I got licensed. So I was all like, oh my God, let me really think about that. And I'll tell you what, this is now that I have gone through and got licensed and went through everything and really know all the ins and outs about how important it is to actually be licensed and all of the implications behind it. I know that now, but in the beginning, I didn't. And there's a very different view and mindset on it. And there is a reason for that. So I'm going to go ahead and really explain that and get down into detail about that whole thing with being unlicensed and still trying to do hair and then being licensed. So I'll have to go back to the days when I first started. For one, um, it really depends on it depends on who you are as a person and like what your circumstances is like. So say for instance, and I think a lot of people probably won't even look at it this way, they probably won't even think about it this way, but say if you're like, say like how I was, and we didn't have much money growing up and whatever, and you trying to get trying to do whatever you can to earn money or whatever, have you, or all of those type of things, and you end up learning how to do hair. So say someone teaches you how to braid, or you, like me, initially I started out with my grandmother. She was making me do press and curls at 11 years old. I wasn't out there doing nothing with nobody else at that point because I was just dealing with my grandmother's hair and stuff like that. But as I started to get older and get a little better with doing hair, I realized like, oh wow, okay, I can do hair. But In the beginning, I didn't really charge because I was still calling myself getting practice. And at this point, I still wasn't thinking about going to hair school. I just was all like, okay, this was this whole new thing. And I'm like, oh, wow, I actually like this. Let me do more and more people hair. So as my friends and stuff started to realize that I knew how to do hair, more and more people asked me to do their hair. So I'm just like kind of following it like that. So I think the person initially, especially if they're younger, because as I was growing up in my teenage years, there was a lot of other hairstylists popping up, like young girls that learned how to do hair, braids, or whatever. And I think initially it was just about like the braids and like things that really can't harm someone. Um, so at that point, it wasn't really like a big deal because you're not really harming anybody. You're just like braiding hair, doing like little things that are not really harmful. But the problem with that is when you start to get into the other stuff, like when you start to get, you decide, okay, I know how to do this. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to color someone's hair. Let me start to put relaxers in somebody's hair. When you start dealing with the chemical aspects of it, once, I don't care if you go on YouTube, look it up how to put color in someone's hair, look up how to relax someone's hair. So I'm talking about like back then before I even got into the locks and stuff like this. And so she's talking about hairstyle and stuff. So I'm talking about this portion of it because I kind of feel like this is where the most damage can come in when you start working with chemicals and different things like that. So did I do it before I knew exactly what I was doing? I was a little guilty. I was guilty of that. Not a little, I was. But this is with me being a teenager and I was dealing with my friends and family. So I wasn't like putting this out to like the public where I didn't know these people and I was trying to do their hair and stuff like that. This was just like, okay, listen. And I guess I would give them little warnings like, all right, I didn't go to hair school or anything, but I can read directions and I'll follow the directions and then I'll do your hair. So, and I still really wasn't charging them like that. I might have like got to a point once I considered myself good at doing hair. I would be like, okay, I'll relax your hair for like $20 or $15 or like it started to be stuff like that. But what I will say, hey, Kathy, how are you? Welcome. How you doing? I hope everybody's doing fine, guys. And when y'all come in, do me a favor and thumbs up. We are talking about unlicensed hairstylists and what is the impact? What are my views on the impact of it? But without me going, okay, so without me kind of going through like all the steps and all this other kind of stuff, I'm trying to just get to the meat of it. I'm trying to break it down to the meat of it because the thing is there really is a such thing as unlicensed hairstylists out there because there are a lot of people for various reasons. It's so many different reasons why people will get out there and call themselves doing hair. Okay. And like I said, it could be they needed money. It could be they just want to learn or they just want to make money, even if they have money or whatever. It's like everybody's kind of reasons are different why they'll do it. Um, but it does come a point with that where you actually have to be ethical about it. So I think most of us that did that, that was out there doing people's hair and stuff like that, it was ignorance. It was more like because I know for a fact I didn't have an understanding of the implications of actually using chemicals on a person's hair and it could if I decided to do this elderly person's hair and she's taking this kind of medication, her hair could actually fall out. She could actually have a reaction towards me putting that chemical, like because you're using chemicals and then if this person's taking a certain kind of medication, you really could affect that person. And just all sorts of different things. Colors, if you don't know exactly what you're doing with colors, you can have someone walking around with green hair, orange hair, whatever, like totally like drab dull hair if you don't know exactly what you're doing. or you could really hurt someone. Maybe they could have a seizure based on what are you doing if you're actually mixing chemicals on this person's hair. It really just depends. So there is, now I did learn as time went on, like, okay, wait a minute. Now more people than just my family and friends are asking me to do their hair. So now this is like, oh, my friend said she saw how you did my hair. She want to know. So it got to a point just instinctively in me to be like, you know what? I'm gonna have to go to hair school now, because now these are people that I don't know. Like, what if I make a mistake? What if something happens and I actually really hurt somebody? These people can sue me. Like, it's so many things that actually really can happen to you if you are out here in the public doing people hair unlicensed. But what I'm going to do is, and there was like, so say now you have this licensed person over here and they're charging this amount of money, and then you're like, oh, okay, you know what, I'll charge you. They're like, okay, you can come over here and get your hair relaxed or whatever for like $100 or something like that. And they're like, girl, you can come over here. I'll do that for $45 or this and that. And people not really understanding, or they may be like, I kind of seen her work a little bit. She does kind of do it a little this and that. But you know what? I'm a little short on cash. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to this girl that's charging $45. But the problem with that is that if you go over to this salon and go to the lady that is charging you the $100 who's licensed that actually work in the salon, you're covered by that lady. If something happens in that with her, you can actually sue that person. You can actually get money because this is a licensed person. If you go ahead and go to this unlicensed person, you're not going to get a darn thing, and you're not even going to be able to prove anything. And that's going to be on you because you rolled the dice and went with the unlicensed person. So it's affecting people that are actually licensed out here, because you've spent your money, you've spent your time, you've went through all of the work and all of the, learning all of the rules, all of the safety precautions and all of this kind of stuff. And now you have these people out here that are charging less or coming behind you like, oh, I can da, da, da. And that's the real thing. And they're not going away. It's not like these people are actually going away, because no matter what people are saying to people, there's always still, I know some people still now that be doing people's hair that are not licensed. And it's crazy because that really is a real thing. And when I went to hair school, I was really, really shocked about what you actually learn when you go. Like, people think it's just something simple, like, oh, okay, I just want to learn about this. I'm just going to go in hair school. I'm going to learn this. And learn. There is a lot of stuff. Initially, when you first go, you have to learn hair theory. There is actually hair theory when you go. Sister Knots. Sister Knots says it's only been in the past 10 years that the question professional acts was truly related to health, to hair health. I really didn't get the concept in my earlier years. Absolutely right. Wait a minute. That the question professional acts is truly absolutely. And you know what? I will agree with you on that. I will absolutely agree with you on that, because when I used to go to hair salons, I used to go every 2 weeks. Before I got into it, when I was a relaxed person, all that kind of stuff, I was in the hair salon every 2 weeks getting my hair relaxed and all that kind of stuff, getting my roller sets, my wraps, and whatever different thing I was getting done to my hair, the colors, all of the stuff. And we're talking about all things that cover chemical, any people that were getting Jerry curls, honey, or all anything that consisted of chemicals, all that was all risk. And you know what? And to be honest with you, there was not, I don't actually remember anyone asking anybody, are you on any kind of medications? Let me look through your scalp. Let me check the condition of your hair. Do you have this? Do you have that? Like, it was very few people that I came across that, and more actually, like you're saying now, more during this time, like in these past years, that you got some that started to actually ask about health stuff. Back then, they wasn't asking nothing about that. They really was not asking anything about that. But we learned in school when we first initially went. You are going to learn hair theory. You are going to learn about the health of someone's hair, like what to look for when a client comes into your salon, their scalp. You're examining, you're almost like a hair doctor. You're examining their scalp. You're looking for any abnormalities, anything that looks out of place or whatever. And it's not saying that you can diagnose anything, because we can't diagnose anything. But they, in the books, they were showing us different things that if you see this, if you see that, we would have our images, our pictures like this. So if I came across something and something looked weird, or somebody had a cut in their head, or they had like different type of, just anything that just wasn't a healthy scalp where you can look through it and look nice and clean and healthy, you're going to go ahead and advise them to go see a dermatologist, or yeah, mostly a dermatologist, or just let them know, hey, this is going on. We could recommend certain products if it came to, like, say if you had like intense dandruff or things like that, we could recommend different shampoos to try to help clear that up, or any of those type of things. But if it was like over our pay rate, we were recommending dermatologists and different things like that. But we spent a good majority, like in the hair school I went to, we had like the green zone, red zone. You like graduated to these different zones, and that whole first zone was all about health, the health of someone's hair and all that other kind of stuff. And then when you graduated to the chemical portion of your learning, it really got intense, because this is where you can get sued at. This is where you can mess up someone's hair, and all these other kind of stuff. So there is a whole lot more. But when I was out there just doing people's hair and all that kind of stuff, I didn't know that stuff. And I guarantee you, straight up out the box, that people that are out here, especially these young girls, or you might have girls on college campuses doing each other's hair, da, 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 da. And I'll even say this: although the chemical portion of it is the worst part, because that's when you really can do the most damage to someone, do not think that applying those lace front wigs with the glues and all of that kind of stuff, and doing it repeatedly, putting tight braids in someone's hair, like extra tight braids, doing your weaves, doing like all of the other things, to your crochet braids, like all of that other kind of stuff, that can cause inflammation as well, and cause your hair to start thinning. And that's why thinning over time, and even balding and alopecia, start the onset of early alopecia in your hair, because when you're putting these tight styles and different things like in that is going to cause inflammation. So there really is an impact. Like there is such a big impact that can happen to you for being a unlicensed person, because you do not have the information that you need, and you're probably not even thinking about it. I know for a fact you're not thinking about it, because I remember it wasn't even crossing my mind. The only thing, hey, I'm trying, them college kids is trying to do a couple of heads so that they can go to the party next week, or get the outfit or the shoes, or the, have some money in their pockets to drink and be out with them. They are not thinking about the implications of how they can hurt someone, or how deep it is. Okay. So I'm actually going to look on AI and just really run it down, because I really, this is so important that people know this. And it's really crazy how people seriously do not. I guarantee, and this, and these are even adults. We're not. I'm talking about teenagers, but the adults that are still doing it, and I guarantee you, they're not thinking a thought about what I'm saying. I know this for a fact. They're not thinking a thought about it. Okay, let me see. Okay, so what impacts? Hold on. Impacts has unlicensed, okay, so what impacts has unlicensed hairstylists Okay, so I did. Okay, so what impacts has unlicensed hairstylists had on the hair industry, guys? So I am going to do the AI overview and see what it says and how it kind of like coincides to what I was thinking. Okay, it says unlicensed hairstylists can have several negative impacts on the hair industries, and these include undermining professional standards, devaluation of the profession. So that is true, the devaluation of the profession. Licensed stylists invest in education and licensure, which unlicensed stylists may lack credentials, potentials, harming the profession's reputation. You definitely can, where you have like a lot of people out here running around saying that they do sister locks and all those kind of stuff. And in fact, they don't. And you know what? I'll be honest, I've come across people who actually think they have sister locks and they don't, because they have gone to someone. This is like literally real time still happening right now. Like I see people in the street that's like, oh, I have, and I'm just all like, wow. See, this is that stuff when you have those people that are doing your hair and saying that they know what they're doing and they actually don't. And it says inadequate training. Unlicensed individuals may not have formal training in health and safety, potentially leading to client harm and improper techniques or chemical use. Like how I was saying, covering the whole chemical stuff. Once you get into that, that's a whole new chemical. I mean, whole new animal. And then, of course, when they're doing like locks and saying this and that, we're doing sister locks, this and that. First of all, you're not doing it because you don't even know the technique. And even if you think you know what you're doing online because you watched the thing, there was so much more than that, than to be like, oh, you just go around and you just do this and that. You don't know how to combine a person's lock properly, if it needs to be combined or whatever, or if you even see something that you need to combine where you're like, okay, this is too thin, and then we need to strengthen up this root right here to preserve this lock and to keep this lock intact. Because if I don't do this and let me explain this to the person and why I'm doing it and actually know how to execute that, and you know what I'm saying? Or explain certain things. They may say, "Hey, when can I get a color in my hair? When is the process of my locks gonna lock?" And then you understanding based on the texture of hair you're dealing with and how long this actually takes, this texture as opposed to that texture, because they teach you this actually in class. These are things that you actually have to know. You're not going to be able to answer it because you don't know. Okay. And so let me see. Sister Lot says health, safety, and sanitation. How do they, if they sanitize their combs, brushes, rollers, etc.? Okay. And how the great question, because that's actually coming up here in sanitation. And I'm so glad you even touched on that, because that is a vital part of doing people's hair. Okay. Because so that's coming up. That's coming up. Okay, so the next one is economic consequences. Unfair competition. Unlicensed practitioners might offer lower prices, like I said, making it difficult for licensed professionals to compete. Lost revenue. Unlicensed stylists may not contribute taxes or licensing fees, resulting in lost government revenue. So that's like if you're doing your business and stuff like that and you're not reporting it, then there you go, you're not paying taxes on it and stuff like that. Okay, so and then we're having, this is where we get to public health and safety risks. This is where we're talking about the public health and safety risk. Poor hygiene and sanitation. Unlicensed stylists might not follow proper protocols, increasing the risk of infections and the spread of diseases. Lack of resources for clients. Clients who encounter problems with unlicensed stylists have limited options for resolutions, as there is no regulatory oversight. So this is the thing, and I'm gonna give y'all a quick story about this is exactly what can really happen, right? So I was, as far as hygiene, that is, they are huge on that in hair school. The hygiene practices that you have to have when you're doing people's hair, when you're in hair school. Usually, and as a matter of fact, I ran out of my barber towel, which I usually always have on deck. But even if you don't have your barber towel, always, I always keep alcohol around, no matter what. I continuously use alcohol, and when you are doing clients here, you will go after each and every use. For one, I'm always making sure that that client washes their locks prior to a session with me. You have to always make sure that they are coming with cleansed locks or whatever. If they're coming to get a hairstyle done at a salon, that's why their hair is always getting shampooed or this or that, because no one is dealing with any type of hair that is unclean. Okay, so you have to have, and then you are sanitizing all of your instruments, anything that you're using, your combs, your brushes, your clips, my duckbill clips on my tools. All of that kind of stuff needs to be soaked either in hot soapy water, or you are going to make sure you are. I lay my stuff out after each client, put my stuff out on my paper towels or whatever, and then I am spraying it all down, letting the air dry completely, and before and after each and every client. And that's something that should be so much in your head that that's just automatic. It should just be automatic. So the whole thing with rollers, like you said, rollers too, anything that you are utilizing on a client's hair, it has to be sanitized, period. And you need the stuff to sanitize that stuff. Okay. So that's very important, guys. Even if, and I'll say this, I want to just put that message out there to those people who are out there who are not licensed and stuff like that. First of all, I would say please think about that, especially if you are using utilizing chemicals and different things like this on different people. Understand the implications and harm that you actually can do, and how much trouble you actually can get in if you actually cause harm to these people. Okay, it will behoove you to try to go ahead and get yourself licensed, and also make sure you are sanitizing every single thing you use. Alcohol don't cost a lot. You can go get you some alcohol. You can go to the hair store, get you a little thing of barbital. Okay, so that at least that can kind of help you a little bit, or whatever. And you should just really look towards getting yourself licensed out here. It's a lot more serious than you think. It's a lot more information that you actually do not know, that you probably think, and you may not even be thinking about it like that, because when I was younger, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but it was more of ignorance on my part because I didn't have the information. I wasn't even thinking like that. I didn't even know hair dressing stuff and all that was even that deep. I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize I could hurt somebody by putting, I kind of understood a little, but I really didn't know uh, um, the full length of really how you could actually really hurt someone messing around in people's hair and you don't know what you're doing. So I really think that you better think about that, okay? And then number 4, there's a legal and ethical concern. Regulatory violation operating without a license is illegal in most areas and can lead to penalties. I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can get penalized by working unlicensed in certain states. So if you are doing that, make sure you kind of want to look into your state laws and see if that will be illegal for you to do that. And then a breach of trust. Unlicensed stylists can damage the profession's integrity by misrepresenting their qualifications to clients, which essentially that's what you're doing. You're misrepresenting your qualifications because you actually do not have the qualifications to do most of the stuff that you're doing. Whether you have practiced it or not, you're not qualified. You don't really actually understand in full detail all the things that you really need to know. And I'm trying to tell you something, you really don't until you actually go to hair school. You don't. So in summary, unlicensed hairstylists can negatively affect the hair industry by impacting professional standards, creating unfair economic conditions, posing public health risks, and raising legal and ethical issues. Addressing this requires public awareness of the importance of choosing licensed professionals and enforcing regulations. So that is it in a nutshell. And it pretty much kind of coincides with the type of things that I was thinking of anyways, but I kind of feel like I really wasn't like, I think the way that I was looking at it kind of more was like, okay, you can go ahead and if you go over there, you're not gonna be able to get your hair done like how I would do your hair. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit more money, but at least you're gonna get your hair done right and stuff like that. You're gonna da 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 da. But even though I was kind of, even thinking of it in the way I was thinking of it, I wasn't even really looking at it like in a way like, okay, if they mess up your hair, you can't get paid or whatever. Like, so if you come in a salon and then I'm doing your hair and you don't like what I'm doing, it or I didn't give you what it is that you were looking for, you can actually refuse to pay me. Like, unless I have you like signing something that's like, okay, if I do your hair, you don't like it, you pay me half. Da, 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 da. Like, you gotta kind of have certain things in place. But if you a client can really be like, hey, look, I'm not satisfied with this. They can take it to a little small claims court, da, 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 and they can win if they really didn't get what they want, or you burn their hair, or whatever it is, right? So, people, I am telling you, I'm really, really glad that she brought that up, because that just kind of put me back. That really brought me back to my hair days. Like, and it really brought me back to really thinking about all of that, because I just remember just being out there with, like, there literally is like a whole group of unlicensed people that is operating out here in this world. Like, there really is. Like, it's like a thing, and that's the crazy part, because I don't feel like that's ever going to go away, because you always have people. I feel like you're going to always have people popping up that's going to be teaching people things like about hair. Like, especially in our community, we're always teaching each other like how to braid, how to do this, how to do that. Like, so you're gonna always have those ones that be like, okay, I could just kind of do a little bit of this on the side or whatever, and I'm not gonna go to school. You might not have a passion to do hair. You might just be like, okay, I'll do a little bit of something, make a little bit of money, but that's not your passion. It just so happens that doing hair ended up being my passion. And I actually really enjoyed doing people's hair. So when the idea came up to do hair, it was just kind of more like a natural progression for me to go to hair school, because most of my friends, my family, they already knew it. They're like, Faye, I know you're gonna go to hair school. Like, I already could tell. Like, I used to be like, I used to call my friends, like, y'all need your hair done? Anybody need your hair done? Because I really wanted to practice. I wanted to get better. I wanted to do those things. So, it was kind of a natural progression for me. But I feel like as it comes to, as it relates to the whole unlicensed person, and the licensed person is, um, you're gonna always just kind of have your unlicensed person. It's just going to be for so many just different reasons why that they do it. Like, so it's kind of, I'm trying to think of something else you can think of that's like kind of like the yin and the yang, and it's like, but it's just not gonna go away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's gonna always be there. I don't know like what's gonna have to go into place, or what's gonna be in place in order for like to get away from like the unlicensed hair stylist. And I think, and the reason why I think that's not going to go away is because you're going to always have that person, that customer that's going to want the cheaper price. And they're not going to, well, not everybody's not going to want that, but you're going to always have some people that will go for that lower price, because, and they'll be okay with it not being perfect. So that's the whole thing. I think it's like, and then you'll have that other type of person that's like, no, I need my hair done right. I don't got time to play like that. My hair need to be done right. So I was, but and I would say, so it's one of those kind of things where it is the responsibility on both sides. This issue lies on both sides. So that's how that goes. It lies on both sides. So if there wasn't a need, if there wasn't like, if people weren't feeding into, like, these people that charge less and who are unlicensed, if people wouldn't go to them, then they wouldn't exist, and it would force them to go get licensed, right? And then you have those, and then on the customer side, okay, the same thing. They would have to be like, okay, let me just go ahead and respect this, these licensed people that have went to school and paid their money and put in their time, and I'm gonna go ahead and just go pay these people and then get it done over here. Well, what if you lose your job? What if this happened? What if that happened? And then in the health aspect of it, now listen to this. Now, and this we were, this is when I was in school. Okay, this happened. This is quick story time, and this is what really happened. But you can actually come across this, and this is what I would want some unlicensed people to think about too, because don't think you can't come across an unhealthy person just because people might look okay on the outside or whatever. You don't never know what's going on, because I had all kind of people. I used to cornrow guys hair, I used to do girls hair, I used to do different cultures people's hair, like back in the day, all that kind of stuff. So I've dealt with all sorts of different type of people's hair, so you don't know who what's what. But anyways, this was when I was in hair school, right? So I was working in this place called the clinic. This was like, so this is when you was in the green zone. This is like the last zone of school, which was the green zone. And this meant that people from the outside, so this was the school, people from the outside could come in and get their haircuts and get little hair services for a cheaper price. Okay. So, and this also gave us, because this was the zone right before us graduating and really getting out there and getting into the public, getting into our salons, whatever have you. And so this guy came in, it was a guy came in and he wanted to get his little basic layer haircut. So he was assigned a girl, came in, he looked fine. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think nothing of it. She washed his hair, did the whole thing, all that stuff, got him prepped for his haircut. And so as she was going through cutting his hair and da da da, she ended up nicking his ear. And then it like bled, like it bled because she nicked it. And he was like, stop. Just like told her, stop. And she was like, whoa, like, okay, what's going on? We all looked over at him like, okay, what's happening? He was like, just hand the scissors to me from the edge. I'll finish my haircut. Okay, I'll finish haircut. And we were like looking at him like, what? Why? Like, what's going on? Like, no, she can finish it. He was like, no, no, she can't finish it. He was like, I'm HIV positive and I don't want, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead. And everybody was like, whoa, what? Like, and it was like he was like, and it just kind of like stunned everybody. We just kind of was like, okay, like, and she was like backing away, like being like, and then she was totally tripping because she washed his hair, she had did all this and that, and he didn't say anything beforehand. And he told her, he ended up telling her, he was positive. So you don't, okay, people from the, anybody could come into you and do anything. So now she was in a setting. Thank God we were in a controlled setting. We was at the school. We were, so every single thing that could have been done was handled in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you was just sitting with someone and you're doing their hair, you're cutting, and you might nick them. They might have said something like, "Oh no, I'm good," or said whatever. Maybe they might have left and like cleaned it up or whatever, but may not have told you. And I think that guy was more prompted to tell us because he was in this whole clinic with everybody around him. So he was more prompted to be honest about his condition. but then that could be taken care of. And if something would have happened to her, we're all witnesses, we all saw it, he admitted it out his own mouth. And if something would have happened to her, or somehow that would have transferred to her, if she decided to sue this person, she would have been able to sue this man. Okay. So these are, and now that's an extreme example, but it's a real one though. And this is something that actually can really happen. So it really is more in your best interest to just actually do it the right way. It really is. Like, you know what I mean? What did they say? I forgot that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a, yes, Sister Ounce. Wow. Yes, Sister Ounce says, wow, that's something to think about. At least he was forthcoming. This is what I'm talking about. That was, for him to actually tell the truth like that was like, we were like, whoa, like she was scared, and scared the hell out of her, but we was all, but see, but that also told, I'm glad that man was forthcoming like that too, because to be honest, now look at that, look at that situation and what happened. Even up to that point, I still wasn't even thinking like that. Now we're sitting up in here in a hair salon, I mean the hair school, learning all about health stuff, transferring of disease. We learned about all of that. And even though we currently knew about all that, it still did not even dawn on us that we would come across it. You see what I'm saying? So this is the thing. Even though a person can learn this information and learn these things, you still, until it happens to you, might not even like, so, because you're like, oh, okay, we getting client after client after client after client, everything is going good, we good, like, okay, we just, you're not even thinking about nothing. It didn't even cross none of our mind that someone would come in there infected and then tell us. Who would think about that? Like, we didn't think that we would come across that. So that actually, once that happened, but now I was actually glad that that did happen, because it really hit us. Like, oh shit, like people could be sick for real. Now he happened to be a person that just happened to be forthcoming and honest. Look at all the people we did. We have been doing all kinds of people's hair, all sorts of people, because the area that the school was located in, it was like a diverse neighborhood. You have all kinds of people, and I'm not trying to just say like the gay community or whatever, but I think he was a gay guy or whatever, but still we was dealing with everybody. So no matter, you couldn't like, and then the thing about it is the way that the clinic worked, you couldn't like refuse someone. So I don't care if someone came in a little smelly or whatever, you still had to do their hair. Like it was one of them kind of things where you could not refuse people. Like, so some people would come in there, of course we would be putting on our gloves or different things, and we would come across certain kind of people. Some people came in there, they would have lice in their hair sometimes, a little bit. Like, you had people that was coming in getting $5 cuts, or things for way less than it's going to cost, and they understood, oh, you can go to this hair school and deal with these students. And I mean, of course everybody wasn't like that, but every now and again you kind of had something you probably didn't want to deal with that sat down and wanted you to wash their hair and whatever. It wasn't like, they had to come and bring in something, signing saying, they had to sign a consent form saying that if anything happened, they couldn't sue the school. Yeah, they had to kind of sign something like that, because they're getting a discounted haircut and these are students practicing. Like, if they jack your hair up, you can't sue us. If more stuff kind of like that to protect the school if we jack them up, like, because they signed and saying they was okay with us you know doing their hair to the best of our ability at that point. But they wasn't signing something saying, if I got a disease and y'all we wasn't that. Anyways, the point is, I'm like, okay. So they say you had to provide services for people with headlights. So, well, I'll say like this: you might not have known that this person like had lights or whatever in their hair, like initially, but you're washing their hair, you done did all this kind of stuff, and then you're combing through, and then you see like it's like, oh, like if memory serves me correctly, I'm trying to think of how that went. I'm trying to think of how that went. I'll be honest because this was way back in the day, but I know people came in with certain things. I'm trying to remember if our manager would come over and be like, hey, look, if we can't complete the service because X, Y, and Z. I'll put it like this. Because we did have a manager in there that if we had an issue with something, we could go to the manager and say, hey, look, I don't know about this, da 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 da. But it didn't stop people from coming in that had things. So it's not like if they came in and had something, they informed us or told us. And if we found out, I want to say our manager would get involved. We would call them and get it involved. But it was so long ago. I'm trying to think in my mind, I'm thinking we did was able to kind of she was able to kind of handle it like, look, we don't deal with this, da 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 da. But I do remember that people would come in with stuff in their hair, and it wasn't like they told us ahead of time. I have this, so I'm not gonna like be like, oh yeah, we had to finish the process, because to be honest with you, I do remember we had a manager in there that would get involved if we did have an issue with stuff. That part I do remember. So I do want to say that if we noticed something like that, we would get the person involved, but it didn't stop clients from coming in that had stuff. So I'll say that. I'll just say it like that. But it was something. It was an experience. I'll tell you that much. It was definitely an experience. It was an experience. It really taught me a lot. I'm actually glad though that I did. But we also always had protective stuff. So that was another thing too. Like, we had masks if we needed to. We had our gloves. We had different things. So if it was anything that we felt a little icky about or anything like that, we was always able to, protect ourselves and stuff like that. So we did make sure that, but it still did, didn't stop you from feeling like, oh, like when certain things came up, because it still didn't stop that, because you still did have to do people's hair. Like, I mean, you still had to see it. Even if they took care of it, you still had to engage initially until you found out or whatever. So, but it wasn't, but it was an experience though. It was definitely experience, and I'm glad that I did go through certain things because it taught me a lot. It really did teach me a lot about this industry, especially something that I was going to be in for a long time. I did not realize that I would be in the hair industry for this long. I didn't know I was going to be in it this long, but it just so happens that I did and still is in the hair industry. Like, I'm still, who knew that this was going to be such a big part of my life? I had no idea that this was going to be a part of my life, but I can just say, I'll just say straight up to people, just from an experienced person who have been doing hair over, when did I start hair school? I think I was 21. Wait a minute, I had my daughter. I think I was 21 when I first went to hair school, because I had my daughter young. I had my daughter at 20, and then I ended up going like a year after. Yeah, so I was like 21 years old. Sister Knot said, "Do you think that's why more hair professionals are wearing gloves now, things in people's hair?" I I would say so. I don't. Well, I'll put it this way: it's definitely for sanitation purposes. That's straight up. It's definitely for sure, and it's being pushed more and more as people are just dealing with a lot more out here today, and I think they're just taking it a lot more seriously now. Um, um, Whereas before, even though we got the information, I don't think a lot of people implemented like a lot of the safety precautions as they should have. Now, they did that alcohol stuff, like, with their tools and things, and making sure their tools were sanitized and things like that. Like, I saw a lot of that going on. But in terms of, and then again, it depends on what schools you went to and how much they enforced it. I just happened to go to a school that really did enforce healthy, sanitation and all that. Like, I mean, when we would set up and all that stuff, with all of our stuff, everything we did, our sanitation had to be right there. Like our cotton balls, our alcohol was always there. So beforehand, after every single thing, when we closing our things back up, our kits, because we had our big bags with all of our stuff. Every single thing you used, even if we was using our mannequins, if we had to use them duckbill clips doing our roller sets, practicing whatever it is that we had to do, you had to use your sanitation. You had to sanitize everything, the desk area, every area we was at, everything had to be sanitized. Now they didn't do the whole glove things like that. They didn't push the gloves like that, but unless we had the relaxers. So, but that wasn't until we got into the chemical section. That's when they really enforced the gloves and stuff like that. But to your point, yes, I do believe that today they're wearing more of, probably pushing the gloves more. They're probably pushing it a lot more today. They're probably pushing it a lot more today, for hairdressers to wear the gloves. So that's probably where that comes from. And then you gotta also think about it too. It's like people are tired of these daggone chemicals, because I'll tell you one thing for sure. If you're if you've been in this industry for a very long time, and remember, guys, remember y'all, just show some love and do your little thumbs up as you come in, guys. Okay, y'all just do me that little easy quick favor. If y'all come in, just go ahead and thumbs up and say hey if you're popping in. I see a few people popping in and popping out. Don't be shy, y'all, because I know I got a lot of shy folks that be jumping in and jumping off, so don't be shy, y'all. But anyways, that is, I think, is a whole lot more prevalent. And if you're doing it for a long period of time too, you got to understand that actually wears on you. And that is the reason how come I got away from the chemicals portion of doing hair, y'all. So, just even being around the smells of chemicals, just being like, it is so many things that you won't even think about when you're in this industry. I mean, just think about even when you're going into the nail shops, like that stuff you're in here. Imagine, just even the stuff in the nail places, the stuff, how strong that smell when people are getting their nails done, when they're putting on tips, gel,